Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command room of the human warship USS Defiance. The blue light from the big screen filled the dark room as he read the message from the Galactic Empire. His hands were behind his back, and his face showed no emotion. The message was short and clear. To the human race, you have built colonies in Sector 7 without our permission. This breaks Imperial Law number 44701. Stop all colony building now, or we will stop you by force. Captain Lisa Bennett walked up to Morrison. She was his best officer and had been fighting aliens for 20 years. Her face was angry as she looked at the message. Admiral, they want us to leave 47 worlds. These are not empty planets. We have millions of people living there. Morrison turned to face the other officers in the room. Commander Ryan Clark was looking at star maps on his computer. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez stood near the wall with her arms crossed. General Pete Carson was reading reports from the human colonies. All of them looked angry. The Galactic Empire had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years. They were made up of old alien races who thought they owned all the stars. They had been in space long before humans learned to make fire. Every young race that met them had to follow their rules or die. How long do we have? Morrison asked. Clark looked up from his computer. 72 hours, sir. After that, they send their war fleets to remove us. The room became quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. Humans had been building new worlds for 50 years. They needed more space and more resources. Earth was getting crowded, and humans wanted to spread across the stars. They had met many alien races. Some were friendly and some tried to fight, but none were as powerful as the Empire. Rodriguez stepped forward. Sir, these colonies are not just military bases. They are homes. We have families there, children who were born on those worlds. We built farms and cities from nothing. Morrison nodded. He had visited many of those worlds himself. He had seen human children playing in soil that their parents had made fertile. He had watched families build new lives on planets that used to be dead rocks. The thought of giving up those worlds made him angry. The Empire thinks we are like all the other races they have conquered, Morrison said. They think we will bow down and follow their orders because that is what everyone else does. He walked to the communication panel and prepared to send a message back to the Empire. The other officers watched as their admiral's face became hard and cold. This was the look that had made enemy fleets run away in past battles. But we are not like the other races, Morrison continued. We do not accept limits that others try to put on us. We do not bow to rulers we did not choose, and we do not give up what belongs to us. Bennett pulled up files on her computer. Sir, our intelligence shows that the Empire has never had a race refuse their demands. They expect complete obedience. Morrison smiled, but it was not a kind smile. Then they are about to learn something new about humans. The Admiral activated the ship's communication system. He was about to send a message that would be heard across the entire galaxy. The message would change everything between humans and the Empire. Send this message to the Imperial High Council, Morrison said, to the Galactic Empire and its leaders. We have received your demand about our colonies in Sector 7. We have thought about it carefully. Our answer is no. Clark looked surprised. Sir, you are going to refuse them directly? Not just refuse, Morrison said. We are going to make our own demands. Tell them this. We consider their attempt to control human expansion to be an act of war against human territory. We give them our own deadline. Remove all Imperial forces from within 50 light-years of the human space within 96 hours, or face the consequences. The officers in the room looked shocked. No race had ever made demands of the Empire. The Empire made the rules, and everyone else followed them. Morrison continued recording his message. Let me make something clear about what humanity is. We are not peaceful traders like the Andromedans. We are not quiet scholars like the vegans. We are a race that conquered our own planet through constant war. We reached for the stars because one world was not enough for us. Rodriguez smiled as she listened. This was why she followed Morrison. He never backed down from a fight. We have turned dead planets into garden worlds through hard work and determination, Morrison said. We have survived ice ages, diseases, global wars, and the cold of space. We are survivors. We are conquerors. We consume worlds and make them our own. The Admiral leaned closer to the camera. You want to know what makes humans different from other races? Other races try to live in harmony with the universe. We try to control it. Other races accept limits. We destroy them. Other races negotiate when they are weak. We negotiate when we are strong, or we do not negotiate at all. Morrison finished his message and turned off the communication system. The room was quiet as the officers thought about what would happen. Next, sir, Bennett said quietly. They will send their entire fleet against us. Morrison nodded. Yes, they will, and they will learn why humans are different from every other race they have conquered. The Imperial High Council chamber on the capital world of Zentara was huge and beautiful. The walls were made of crystal and covered with writing that told the story of 1,000 conquered worlds. High Chancellor Vexathara stood tall in the center of the room. He was from the Zephyrian race and looked like a giant lizard with sharp claws and dark scales. Around him sat the representatives of 12 major alien races that made up the Empire. They had been waiting to hear humanity's response to their demand. All of them expected the humans to surrender like every other young race had done before. Counselor Hicks Moran made clicking sounds with his insect-like body. He was amused by the situation. The humans have sent their reply, High Chancellor. Should I show everyone their message? Vexathara waved one of his clawed hands. The humans had been expanding fast through space that the Empire considered theirs. But humans were still young. They had only been traveling between stars for 300 years. Surely they would be smart enough to obey when faced with the Empire's power. The big holographic screen came to life, showing Admiral Morrison's stern face. His voice was clear and strong as it filled the chamber through the translation system. To the Galactic Empire and its High Council, we have received your demand about our colonies in Sector 7. After thinking about it carefully, we reject your demands completely. Shocked voices filled the council chamber. The alien representatives could not believe what they were hearing. In 3,000 years, no race had ever refused an imperial order. Morrison's image continued speaking. We also consider your attempt to control human expansion to be an attack on our territory. We give you our own demand. Remove all Imperial forces from within 50 light-years of human space within 96 hours, or face the consequences. The chamber exploded with angry voices. Counselor Jex Andra of the fish-like Merlanti people rose from her water-filled chair. How dare these mammals threaten us? They think they can challenge the Empire. But Morrison was not finished with his message. Let me explain what humanity represents. We are not the peaceful traders of Andromeda. We are not the quiet scholars of the Vegan Republic. We are a race that conquered our own planet through endless warfare. We reached for the stars because one world was not enough. Vexathara's scales became darker. This was a sign that he was very angry. No race had ever spoken to the Empire with such disrespect and contempt. We have made dead rocks into garden worlds through pure determination. Morrison's message went on. We have survived ice ages, plagues, global wars, and the vacuum of space itself. We are survivors, conquerors, and consumers of worlds. The Admiral leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. You want to know what makes humanity different? Other races seek harmony with the universe. We seek to dominate it. Other races accept limitations. We destroy them. Other races negotiate from weakness. We negotiate from strength, or we do not negotiate at all. Commander Clark appeared next, to Morrison in the transmission. Our response to your enforcement action is already being prepared. You wanted to see what humans do when threatened? You are about to find out. The message ended, leaving the High Council in complete silence. For the first time in thousands of years, a race had not only refused imperial authority, but had threatened the empire itself. Counselor Zektar of the bird-like aviary flapped his wings in agitation. "This is impossible. No young race has the power to threaten us. They must be bluffing." But Vexithara was not so sure. He had studied the reports about human expansion. These creatures were different from other races the Empire had encountered. They spread across space like a plague, taking every world they could reach and making it their own. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" Vexthara asked. The Empire's chief intelligence officer, a gray-skinned humanoid named Kolvex, activated his datapad. "They have approximately 800 warships of various sizes. Their technology is inferior to ours in most areas. Their shields are weaker, and their energy weapons are less powerful." Jexandra made bubbling sounds of laughter. 800 ships against our thousands? This will be over quickly." But Kolvex continued his report. "However, there are some concerning factors. Human ships move in ways that our tactical computers find difficult to predict. They do not follow standard fleet formations or battle tactics. Our analysis suggests they fight more like pirates than a proper military." "Pirates?" Vexithara's voice was full of disgust. "They fight without honor?" "Worse than that," Kolvex said. "They fight without rules. Our observers have watched human battles with other races. They use tricks, traps, and weapons that other species consider too dangerous. They target civilian infrastructure, supply lines, and even wounded enemies." The council chamber became quiet again as the members thought about this information. The Empire had always fought according to ancient traditions. There were rules about how battles should be conducted, what targets were acceptable, and how defeated enemies should be treated. Counselor Hicks Moran clicked his mandibles nervously. "Surely they cannot be serious about threatening us. When they see our full military might, they will surrender." Vexithara was not convinced. He had lived for over 400 years and had seen many races challenge the Empire. But none had done it with such confidence and contempt. The human admiral had spoken as if he was certain of victory. "Summon Admiral Corthex and the Third Fleet," Vexthara ordered. "Deploy them to the Kepler system where the humans have their newest colony. We will show these mammals what happens when they defy the Empire." Kolvex looked worried. "High Chancellor, perhaps we should send more ships. The humans seem very confident for a race that is outnumbered." "The Third Fleet is more than sufficient," Vexithara said with authority. "These humans will learn that the Empire's power is not to be questioned. When word spreads of their defeat, other young races will remember their place." But even as he gave the order, Vexithara felt a strange unease. Something about the human message bothered him. It was not just their refusal to obey, or even their counter-threat. It was the certainty in their voices, as if they knew something. The Empire did not. "Send the order immediately," Vexithara commanded. "The Third Fleet will crush this human rebellion and remind the galaxy who rules the stars." As the council members left to carry out their orders, none of them realized they had just made the biggest mistake in the Empire's 3,000-year history. They were about to learn that humans did not fight like any other race they had encountered, and that some enemies were too dangerous to threaten. Deep in the Sol system, Earth's moon had been changed into a giant military base. Admiral Morrison stood in the command center of Luna Base, looking at the biggest human fleet ever put together. Over 800 warships of different types filled the space around Earth. There were massive battleships, fast cruisers, and small fighters. The sight was both beautiful and scary. Captain Bennett walked up to Morrison with the latest reports from their spy ships. "Admiral, our scouts confirm that the Empire is sending their 3rd and 7th fleets. Together, they have 3 times more ships than us. Their technology also gives them better shields and stronger energy weapons." Morrison studied the star maps, showing where the enemy would attack. The Empire's fleets were moving toward human space like a slow but deadly storm. What about Project Wildfire? Commander Clark smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Dr. Kate Sullivan's team finished the last installations yesterday. Every colony world now has the equipment, and our deep space stations have been upgraded. 2. Project Wildfire was humanity's secret weapon. It was a network of quantum communication devices that could coordinate attacks across huge distances instantly. While other races had to wait for messages to travel between stars, humans could now control their entire military at the same time. And the Scorched Earth protocols? Morrison asked. Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez nodded. All colony governors have been told what to do. If the Empire manages to take any of our worlds, they will find nothing but ash and radioactive holes. We leave nothing useful for our enemies. This was how humans fought wars. They were total, uncompromising, and ruthlessly practical. Where other races might try to save lives or protect buildings, humans had learned from thousands of years of warfare that the only way to win was to make victory too expensive for the enemy. General Pete Carson pointed to several spots on the galaxy map. Our ground forces are ready on 37 worlds. We have turned every major colony into a fortress. Even if their fleets break through our ships, they will have to dig us out world by world. Morrison turned to speak to his senior officers. The Empire expects us to fight like civilized beings. They expect formal battles between fleets, proper surrenders when we are losing, and negotiations when casualties get high. They are about to learn that humans do not fight civilized wars. Captain Susan Torres commanded the stealth ships that spied on enemies. She stepped forward with new information. Admiral, our infiltration teams have found important Imperial supply bases and command centers. Once the fighting starts, we can hit them all at the same time across 12 systems. What are our rules for fighting? Asked Colonel Martinez, who planned fleet tactics. Morrison's face became cold and hard. There are no rules. The Empire wants to see what humans do when threatened. We will show them. We attack military bases, supply lines, communication networks, and command structures. We make it impossible for them to coordinate their forces or supply their fleets. Dr. Sullivan joined the meeting through a hologram from her research station. She was the scientist who had created many of humanity's new weapons. Admiral, our new antimatter mines are ready to use. Each one can completely destroy a ship as big as an Imperial battleship. The officers nodded with approval. This was why humanity had survived and grown strong despite facing better alien technology. They were willing to develop and use weapons that other races thought were too dangerous or destructive. The Empire has ruled through fear and old traditions for 3,000 years, Morrison said. It is time they learned that there is something more dangerous than their ancient power. A young, hungry race with nothing to lose and everything to gain. Bennett activated her computer and showed pictures of human colonies. Sir, we have received messages from all 47 worlds. The colonists are ready to fight. They will not abandon their homes. Morrison felt proud as he thought about the human families on those distant worlds. They were farmers, engineers, teachers, and children who had built new lives on planets that used to be empty. They represented everything that made humanity strong. The Empire made one critical mistake, Morrison said to his officers. They think all races are the same. They think we will surrender when faced with superior numbers, just like everyone else has done for thousands of years. Commander Clark pulled up tactical displays showing Imperial fleet movements. Their ships move in traditional formations that have not changed in centuries. They fight according to ancient rules that all Imperial races follow. But we never agreed to those rules, Morrison said. We developed our fighting methods on Earth where the only rule was survival. We learned to use every advantage, every trick, and every weapon we could find. Rodriguez activated a hologram showing human battle tactics. Our ships do not fight in neat lines like theirs do. We swarm like angry insects, attack from multiple directions, and disappear before they can respond effectively. Torres added more information. Our stealth technology allows us to hide ships where they least expect them. We can strike their supply lines while they are focused on our main fleets. Dr. Sullivan's hologram flickered as she spoke. We have also developed weapons specifically designed to counter Imperial technology. Their shields are strong against energy weapons, but our kinetic projectiles and antimatter devices will punch right through them. Morrison walked to the large window that looked out at the human fleet. The ships were preparing to leave Luna Base and spread across human territory. Each captain knew exactly what to do when the Empire attacked. "Send a message to all fleet commanders," Morrison ordered. "Operation Prometheus begins in 6 hours. Every ship, every base, every weapon we have will be coordinated through wildfire. When the Empire arrives, they will face something no race has ever seen before." Carson activated the communication system. "All colony worlds report ready, Admiral. Ground defenses are active and civilian populations have been moved to secure locations." "The Empire thinks this will be like all their other conquests," Morrison said. "They expect us to meet them in space, fight a traditional battle, and surrender when we realize we cannot win." Bennett smiled as she understood the plan. "But we are not going to give them a traditional battle." "Exactly," Morrison replied. "We are going to give them a human war, and humans have been perfecting war for 50,000 years. The first battle happened in the Kepler system, where humanity's newest farming colony circled a star that the Empire had once thought was too far away to matter. The Empire's third fleet, led by Admiral Corthex of the warrior race called the Draknari, came out of hyperspace expecting to find a small human outpost with weak defenses. Instead, they found a carefully prepared trap. Captain Alex Turner commanded the human defense force from the heavy cruiser USS Retribution. He watched as the Imperial ships moved into their traditional battle formation. The aliens kept their usual arrangement, with massive battleships in the center, surrounded by cruisers and destroyers in perfect geometric patterns that had dominated space warfare for thousands of years. "All units, execute Prometheus Protocol," Turner commanded through the quantum communication network. What happened next had never been seen in galactic warfare before. Instead of meeting the Imperial fleet in a traditional battle line, the human ships scattered in all directions. They moved with chaotic precision that looked random, but was actually the result of months of coordination training. The Imperial weapons were designed for large fleet battles against enemies who fought in orderly formations. They struggled to track the wildly moving human ships that seemed to dance through space like angry wasps. Meanwhile, human ships armed with experimental kinetic weapons and guided antimatter warheads began tearing apart the enemy formation from multiple angles. "This is not how civilized races conduct warfare," Admiral Corthex transmitted to his fleet. "Maintain formation and advance according to doctrine." But human warfare had never been civilized. Captain Emma Davis commanded a squadron of fast attack ships and led her vessels in a spinning assault that confused the Imperial targeting computers. Her ships would appear from one direction, unleash devastating attacks, then vanish into the asteroid field that humans had filled with automated weapon platforms. The asteroids themselves had been turned into weapons. Human engineers had hollowed them out and filled them with missiles and energy cannons. When Imperial ships came too close, the rocks suddenly came alive with deadly fire. Commander Jake Phillips had been waiting for this moment. His ship looked like a damaged cargo vessel and had been drifting among the Imperial fleet for the past hour. The enemy had ignored him, thinking he was just debris from an earlier battle. When Phillips triggered the massive antimatter device, hidden in his cargo hold, the explosion was brighter than the system's star. 3 Imperial battleships simply vanished in the blast, and 2 more were crippled and burning. Admiral Corthex watched in horror as his carefully ordered fleet fell, apart under the human assault. These were not the tactics of any known race. They were the methods of creatures who had learned warfare in the furnace of planetary conflict, where survival mattered more than honor or tradition. All ships "Withdraw to hyperspace," he ordered. His pride shattered along with his fleet. But the humans were not finished. As the surviving Imperial ships tried to retreat, they found their escape routes blocked by human vessels that had been waiting in hyperspace. Captain Lisa Morgan commanded the interception force and smiled grimly as she watched the trapped enemy. "Ships! No survivors!" she transmitted to her fleet. "Make sure the Empire gets the message." The destruction of the Third Fleet was complete and ruthless. Human ships hunted down every surviving Imperial vessel, making sure that no one escaped, to report what had really happened. The Empire would know their fleet was destroyed, but they would not know how. The news of the Third Fleet's destruction sent shockwaves throughout Imperial space. High Chancellor Vexathara stood in his war room on Zentara, staring at the reports. With disbelief, an entire Imperial fleet had been wiped out by a force less than half its size. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his military advisors. Admiral Kextor, the Empire's chief military commander, studied the limited data they had received. "The humans did not fight according to any known tactical doctrine, High Chancellor. They seemed to use their entire environment as a weapon." "Explain," Vexthera ordered. "They turned asteroids into weapon platforms, hid ships disguised as debris, and coordinated attacks from directions we did not expect. Our fleet was caught completely off guard." Counselor Jex Andra arrived from the High Council chamber, her aquatic features showing extreme agitation. "The other member races are asking questions, High Chancellor. Some are wondering if the Empire is still strong enough to protect them." This was Vexathera's greatest fear. The Empire's power came not just from military might, but from the belief that they were invincible. If other races began to doubt Imperial strength, rebellions would spread across the galaxy. "Deploy the Seventh Fleet immediately," Vexathara commanded. "And summon the Ancient Guard from the core worlds. These humans must be stopped before their madness spreads to other races." But across human space, similar battles were happening on dozens of different fronts. The humans had anticipated the Empire's response and were using a strategy that no galactic power had ever attempted. They were fighting simultaneous battles across hundreds of light-years of space. Admiral Morrison coordinated the entire campaign from his flagship, watching as reports came in from battlefields across human territory. "Status report, Captain. Bennett." 17 Imperial fleets engaged across 12 systems, she replied. "We have destroyed or damaged 8 enemy fleets with minimal losses on our side. The Empire is learning that humanity does not fight fair." Morrison nodded with satisfaction. The Empire's greatest weakness was their attachment to traditional tactics and their assumption that all races would fight by the same rules. They were discovering that humans had never agreed to those rules in the first place. "The Kepler battle was perfect," Commander Clark reported. "Turner's force eliminated the entire Third Fleet without losing a single ship. The Empire still does not understand how we coordinate our attacks." "What about the other fronts?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez pulled up tactical displays. "Similar results across the board. The Empire's fleets are built for traditional warfare. They cannot adapt quickly enough to our tactics." Dr. Sullivan's hologram appeared in the command center. "Admiral, our quantum communication network is working perfectly. We can coordinate attacks across the entire human territory in real time. The Empire has never faced anything like this." Morrison looked at the galactic map showing human victories spreading like wildfire. "The Empire has ruled for 3,000 years because no one ever challenged their assumptions about warfare. They are about to learn that humans make their own rules." High Chancellor Vexathara stood in the ancient war room beneath the Imperial Palace on Zentara. The room had been built 3,000 years ago, when the Empire first began conquering the galaxy. Its walls were covered with the battle flags of defeated enemies and the weapons of conquered worlds. Never before had it been used to plan a defense against a race that threatened the Empire itself. "The humans have destroyed 8 of our fleets in 2 weeks, Admiral Kextor reported, his scaled face showing deep concern. Their tactics are unlike anything in our military databases. They fight without honor, without rules, and without mercy. Around the table sat the Empire's greatest military minds from 12 different races. General Mordak of the insectoid Zenthari clicked his mandibles nervously. Our ships are individually superior to theirs, but they coordinate their attacks in ways we cannot predict or counter. Vexathara studied the holographic display showing the current state of the war. Red dots marked Imperial losses, while blue showed human positions. The blue was spreading like a disease across what had been secure Imperial space. "How many ships do we have left?" Vexathara asked. "Approximately 4,000 combat vessels remain under Imperial command," Kextor replied, "but morale is falling rapidly. Our crews have never faced an enemy that fights like these humans." The door to the war room opened, and Counselor Hicks Moran entered, his insect-like form moving with agitation. "High Chancellor, we have received reports from the outer colonies. 3 more systems have declared independence from the Empire. They claim they can no longer trust us to protect them." This was exactly what Vexathara had feared. The Empire's power came from the belief that they were unbeatable. When that belief cracked, everything would fall apart. "What of the Ancient Guard?" Vexathara demanded. Admiral Yulson of the Crystalline Vorthak stepped forward. "The Ancient Guard has been awakened from their long sleep in the core worlds. 50 dreadnoughts with technology from the Empire's founding era. They are our most powerful weapons. Deploy them immediately," Vexathara ordered, "and gather every available ship from across the Empire. We will crush these humans with overwhelming force." Meanwhile, in human space, Admiral Morrison was studying reports from the latest battles. The humans had been incredibly successful, but the Empire was finally responding with its full military might. "Admiral, our intelligence reports that the Empire is gathering a massive fleet," Captain Bennett informed him. "Over 3,000 ships are moving toward our territory." Commander Clark looked worried as he examined the tactical data. "Sir, that is 4 times larger than any force we have faced so far. Even our tactics may not be enough against those numbers." Morrison walked to the large window of his command ship and looked out at the human fleet. They had grown stronger since the war began, but they were still vastly outnumbered by the Empire's full military power. "What about Project Midnight?" Morrison asked. Dr. Sullivan's hologram appeared with a smile. "Complete and ready for deployment, Admiral. All human colonies now have the capability, and our deep space installations are prepared. Project Midnight was humanity's most dangerous secret. While Project Wildfire allowed instant communication, Project Midnight was something far more devastating. It was a network of automated factories hidden throughout human space that could build weapons and ships without any human workers. "How many ships can we produce?" Morrison asked. "At current rates, approximately 200 new vessels per week," Sullivan replied. "The Empire does not know these facilities exist. They still think we only have our original 800 ships." Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez activated a tactical display. "Admiral, we have also completed the defensive preparations. On all human worlds, every colony is now a fortress, and every civilian has been trained to fight." This was the human advantage that the Empire did not understand. While other races had professional soldiers and civilian populations, humans made no such distinction. Every human was a potential warrior when their homes were threatened. "The Empire is making the same mistake they always make," Morrison said to his officers. "They think this is a traditional war between governments and armies. They do not understand that they are fighting an entire species." General Carson joined the discussion through quantum communication from Earth. "Admiral, our ground forces report complete readiness. If the Empire manages to land troops on any human world, they will face total resistance from the entire population." Captain Torres provided intelligence updates. "Sir, our spy networks have identified the Empire's fleet gathering points. We can strike their supply lines and communication centers before their main attack begins." Morrison studied the galactic map showing Imperial movements. The Empire was preparing for one massive assault that they believed would end the war quickly. They were bringing together more ships than had ever been assembled in galactic history. "They still do not understand what they are fighting," Morrison said. "They think we are just another rebellious race that can be crushed with superior numbers." Clark pulled up detailed analysis of the Imperial fleet. "Admiral, their force includes ships from every member race of the Empire. This is not just the Imperial Navy, it is a coalition of every species under their control." "Good," Morrison replied, surprising his officers. "That means when we defeat them, every race in the galaxy will know that the Empire can be beaten." Bennett looked concerned. "Sir, even with our advantages, facing a fleet that large will be extremely dangerous." Morrison turned back to face his senior staff. "The Empire has made this personal by threatening human families and human worlds. They want to see what humans do when their survival is at stake. They are about to find out." "What are your orders, Admiral?" Rodriguez asked. "We implement the Prometheus Doctrine," Morrison said. "Total war against the Empire and every race that supports them. No rules, no mercy, no surrender until they are completely defeated." Dr. Sullivan's hologram flickered with excitement. "Admiral, I should mention that our newest weapons are ready for field testing. The Empire's fleet will be the perfect opportunity to demonstrate human ingenuity." "Begin preparation for Operation Starfall," Morrison commanded. "Every human ship, every weapon, every hidden factory will be coordinated for one massive counterstrike." The room filled with activity as officers began implementing the Admiral's orders. They all knew that the next battle would determine whether humanity survived as a free species or was crushed under the Empire's ancient power. "The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years, Morrison said as his staff worked. "They have never faced a race that refuses to accept defeat. They are about to learn that some enemies cannot be conquered, only destroyed." The greatest battle in galactic history began in the Tau Ceti system, where humanity had built one of their largest industrial colonies. The Imperial fleet that emerged from hyperspace was beyond massive. Over 3,000 ships of every size and design filled the space around the human world like a metal storm cloud. High Chancellor Vexathara commanded the fleet from his flagship, the ancient dreadnought Eternal Dominion. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried weapons that could destroy entire planets. Around him floated the holographic images of admirals from 12 different alien races, all united in their determination to crush humanity. "Begin the assault," Vexathara commanded. "Show these mammals what happens when they defy the Empire." But as the Imperial fleet moved into attack formation, they discovered that the human defenders were not where they expected them to be. The orbital space around the colony world appeared almost empty, with only a few dozen human ships visible. Admiral Corthex, who had survived the destruction of his previous fleet, studied the tactical displays with growing unease. "High Chancellor, this does not feel right. The humans should have more ships defending such an important world." "They are cowering in fear," replied Admiral Zexkala of the energy-based Plutheri race. "Our overwhelming numbers have finally broken their spirit." But Vexathara was not convinced. He had studied the reports from previous battles, and humans had never shown fear or cowardice. They fought like cornered predators, becoming more dangerous when threatened. "Begin sensor sweeps of the entire system," Vexathara ordered. "I want to know where their main fleet is hiding." The answer came sooner than expected. As the Imperial fleet moved deeper into the system, space itself seemed to come alive with hostile fire. Asteroids that had looked empty suddenly bristled with weapons. Space stations that appeared to be simple mining platforms revealed themselves as heavily armed fortresses. Captain Alex Turner, now commanding a battle group from his new flagship USS Retribution 2, watched from his hidden position behind the system's largest moon. "All units, execute Operation Starfall. Show them what human engineering can accomplish." What the Empire discovered was that humanity had spent months turning the entire Tau Ceti system into a weapon. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, every seemingly innocent structure was actually a carefully disguised military installation. The hidden automated factories that Dr. Sullivan had built activated simultaneously. Instead of building ships slowly over weeks, they began producing weapons in real time during the battle. Missile swarms erupted from concealed launchers scattered throughout the system. Admiral Cortex watched in horror as his sensor displays lit up with thousands of new targets. Impossible! Where are all these weapons coming from? The answer was simple, but terrifying. Humans had not just prepared to defend the system, they had turned it into a massive trap designed to destroy any fleet that entered it, no matter how large. Captain Emma Davis led a squadron of stealth ships in a devastating attack on the Imperial fleet's command vessels. Her ships had been hiding in the system's asteroid belt for weeks, waiting for this moment. Target their communication ships. First, Davis ordered. Cut off their coordination and they become a mob instead of a fleet. Human weapons technology, which the Empire had dismissed as inferior, proved devastatingly effective in close combat. While Imperial energy weapons were powerful, human kinetic projectiles and antimatter warheads could punch through any shield when fired at close range. Commander Jake Phillips, now commanding his own ship after his successful suicide attack in the previous battle, targeted the Empire's supply vessels. "No fuel, no ammunition, no way home," he transmitted to his squadron as they destroyed ship after ship. The battle quickly became a nightmare for the Imperial forces. Their massive fleet, designed to fight traditional space battles, found itself trapped in a system where every piece of matter was potentially hostile. Dr. Sullivan activated her masterpiece from a hidden command center deep inside the colony world. "Admiral Morrison, Project Midnight is now fully operational. We are producing weapons faster than they can destroy them." The automated factories were working at impossible speeds, guided by artificial intelligence that could design and build new weapons in minutes instead of months. As Imperial ships destroyed one set of gun platforms, 3 more would emerge from hidden manufacturing bays. High Chancellor Vexathara realized that his fleet was not fighting a defensive force, but rather a living weapons system that was adapting to his tactics in real time. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered, his voice showing strain for the first time in centuries. But the humans had anticipated this as well. As the Imperial fleet tried to withdraw, they found their escape routes blocked by human ships that had been waiting in hyperspace. Admiral Morrison's main battle fleet emerged from concealment, trapping the Imperial forces between the system's weapons and the human navy. "This ends now," Morrison transmitted on all frequencies. "Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Vexathara's reply was filled with rage and desperation. "The Empire does not surrender to inferior species. All ships fight to the death." What followed was a massacre. The Imperial fleet, trapped and confused, was systematically destroyed by weapons they could not locate and enemies they could not track. Human ships moved through the chaos like sharks, picking off isolated enemy vessels with ruthless efficiency. Captain Lisa Morgan coordinated the final phase of the battle from her command ship. "All units, switch to termination protocols. No Imperial ship leaves this system." The Ancient Guard, the Empire's most powerful ships, made a final desperate charge toward the human colony world. Their ancient weapons blazed with energy that could crack planets, but they never reached their target. Admiral Turner's battle group intercepted them with a new type of weapon that Dr. Sullivan had developed specifically for this battle. Gravity bombs that created artificial black holes, swallowing the massive Imperial dreadnoughts whole. When the battle ended 6 hours later, the largest fleet in galactic history had been completely destroyed. Over 3,000 Imperial ships lay as burning wreckage scattered throughout the Tau Ceti system. Not a single Imperial vessel escaped to carry word of the defeat back to Zentara. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the debris field that had once been the Empire's greatest military force. "Send a message to all human colonies," Morrison ordered. "The Empire's main fleet has been eliminated. Begin Phase 2 of Operation Prometheus." Captain Bennett looked up from her tactical display. "Admiral, our losses were minimal. Fewer than 50 ships damaged, only 12 destroyed." Morrison nodded with grim satisfaction. The Empire had brought overwhelming force to crush humanity, but they had only succeeded in demonstrating that no amount of traditional military power could defeat human ingenuity and determination. "Now we take the war to them," Morrison said. "Every Imperial world, every Imperial base, every Imperial ship will be hunted down and destroyed." The Empire wanted to see what humans do when threatened. Now they will see what we do when we are no longer threatened, but angry. The news of the Tau Ceti disaster reached the imperial capital of Zentara 3 days later. High Chancellor Vexithara stood alone in his private chamber, staring at the holographic display that showed nothing but empty space where his greatest fleet should have been 3,000 ships, gone. Not defeated, not scattered, but completely destroyed without a single survivor to explain how it had happened. Counselor Hicks Moran entered the chamber with more bad news. "High Chancellor, 17 more systems have declared independence from the Empire. The news of our fleet's destruction is spreading faster than we can control it." Vexithara turned away from the display, his scales now pale with shock. "How many ships do we have left?" "Fewer than 800 combat vessels across the entire Empire," Hicks Moran replied. "Most of our remaining fleets are scattered across distant sectors, protecting individual worlds." The Empire that had ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years was crumbling in a matter of weeks. The humans had not just defeated Imperial forces, they had shattered the myth of Imperial invincibility that held the entire galactic government together. Meanwhile, Admiral Morrison was implementing the next phase of humanity's war plan. From his command ship, he coordinated attacks across dozens of Imperial systems simultaneously. "Status report on Operation Reaper," Morrison requested. Captain Bennett activated the tactical display showing human strike forces across Imperial space. 43 Imperial worlds under attack, Admiral. Our fast attack squadrons are hitting their supply lines, communication centers, and isolated military bases. Commander Clark added more details. "The humans are not trying to conquer Imperial worlds, sir. We are systematically destroying their ability to wage war. Every fuel depot, every weapon factory, every shipyard is being eliminated." This was the human approach to warfare that the Empire could not understand. Instead of trying to occupy territory like traditional conquerors, humans were destroying the Empire's capacity to fight back. Captain Alex Turner led a strike force against the Imperial naval base at Rigel 7th. His ships emerged from hyperspace and immediately began targeting the orbital shipyards where Imperial vessels were built and repaired. "Remember, no Imperial infrastructure survives," Turner transmitted to his squadron. "If they cannot build ships, they cannot threaten human worlds." The base's defenders tried to respond according to Imperial naval doctrine, but human tactics made their training useless. Turner's ships attacked from multiple directions, used the base's own orbital structures as cover, and disappeared before the enemy could organize an effective response. Within 2 hours, the shipyards that had built Imperial warships for 500 years were nothing but drifting debris. Captain Emma Davis commanded a different type of mission. Her stealth ships infiltrated the Procyon system, where the Empire maintained a major communication hub that coordinated Imperial forces across an entire galactic sector. "Target the communication satellites first," Davis ordered. "Then the ground installations. Make sure they cannot call for help." The attack was swift and silent. Imperial technicians at the communication hub did not even realize they were under attack until their equipment began exploding around them. By the time they tried to send a distress signal, all their transmitters had been destroyed. Dr. Sullivan coordinated the technical aspects of the campaign from her research station. Her automated factories were now producing specialized weapons for each type of target the humans encountered. Admiral Morrison, we have developed new weapons specifically designed to destroy Imperial infrastructure, Sullivan reported. Nanite swarms that can dismantle entire facilities at the molecular level. Deploy them immediately, Morrison replied. I want every Imperial installation rendered completely unusable. The nanite weapons were released on 12 Imperial worlds simultaneously. The microscopic machines could eat through metal, concrete, and even the crystalline structures that some alien races used for construction. Within days, major Imperial facilities simply dissolved into harmless dust. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Rodriguez led ground assaults on Imperial worlds that had significant military installations. Her Marines were not trying to occupy territory, but rather to ensure that no Imperial base could ever be used again. Plant the charges and get out, Rodriguez ordered her troops as they infiltrated an Imperial Army base on Altair 4. We are not here to hold ground. We are here to make sure the Empire cannot use this place again. The explosions that followed could be seen from orbit. The base that had trained Imperial soldiers for 800 years was reduced to a smoking crater in less than an hour. But the most devastating attacks were led by Commander Jake Phillips, who had become humanity's specialist in psychological warfare. His missions were designed not just to destroy Imperial assets, but to spread fear and confusion throughout the remaining Imperial forces. Phillips would attack minor Imperial outposts, leaving no survivors but plenty of evidence that humans had been there. He would destroy supply convoys in ways that made it clear the attacks had been planned far in advance. He made Imperial commanders paranoid that humans were everywhere, watching and waiting to strike. The Empire's greatest weapon was always fear, Phillips explained to his officers. They ruled because other races were afraid to resist them. Now, we are making them afraid of us. The psychological campaign was incredibly effective. Imperial. Commanders began abandoning their posts rather than risk facing human attacks. Entire star systems surrendered without fighting rather than wait for human forces to arrive. General Pete Carson coordinated the overall campaign from Earth. Admiral, the Empire is collapsing faster than we anticipated. Their remaining forces are scattered and demoralized. What about their capital world? Morrison asked. Zentara is defended by their last significant fleet, Carson replied. Approximately 600 ships of various classes, but our intelligence suggests they are preparing to evacuate the government to a more secure location. Morrison smiled coldly. We cannot allow that to happen. If Imperial leadership escapes, they might try to rebuild elsewhere in the galaxy. Captain Susan Torres provided reconnaissance updates. Admiral, our spy networks confirm that High Chancellor Vexithara is planning to flee Zentara within the week. He intends to establish a new capital in the Andromeda Galaxy. Then we end this now, Morrison decided. Prepare the entire human fleet for a final assault on Zentara. We will capture or kill every Imperial leader before they can escape. Bennett looked concerned. Sir, Zentara is the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. Even with our advantages, a direct assault will be costly. Morrison turned to face his senior staff. The Empire wanted to see what humans do when threatened. We showed them. Now they will see what we do when we are winning. We do not just defeat our enemies, we consume them completely. The Admiral activated the fleet communication system. All human forces converge on Zentara. We end this war in 7 days. 6 months after the first shots were fired, the Galactic Empire's 3,000-year reign was over. In the ruins of the Imperial Palace on Zentara, High Chancellor Vexithara knelt before Admiral Morrison. His proud scales were now dull with defeat. and his eyes held the hollow look of someone who had watched his entire world collapse. The human admiral stood in the center of what had once been the most powerful throne room in the galaxy. The crystal walls that had displayed the Empire's conquests for millennia now showed human battle flags and the symbols of newly liberated worlds. Captain Bennett and the senior staff stood nearby, their faces showing no mercy for the fallen regime. "Your empire is finished," Morrison stated in a calm, cold voice. "Your fleets are destroyed, your colonies are in revolt, and your allies have abandoned you. The only question now is whether you surrender completely or force us to finish what you started." Vexathara's voice was barely a whisper. "In 3,000 years, no species has ever managed to destroy the Empire. How did your young race accomplish what no other could achieve?" Commander Clark stepped forward with his final report. "For the record, the Empire lost 63 fleets, 418 major installations, and control of over 800 worlds. Human casualties were approximately 60,000 military personnel and 0 civilian deaths. The numbers told the complete story of humanity's devastating effectiveness. While the Empire had fought according to ancient traditions and rules of honor, humans had waged total war with a ruthlessness that shocked even their enemies. "You want to know how we did it?" Morrison asked, his voice filled with cold satisfaction. "We told you from the beginning, but you refused to listen. We conquer. We consume. We do not accept limitations imposed by others, and we do not leave enemies alive to threaten us again." Captain Torres entered the throne room, leading a group of human civilians. These were colonists from the worlds that the Empire had demanded humanity abandon. They were the families whose lives had started this war, and they had come to witness its end. "The difference between us and every other species you dominated," Morrison continued, "is that we learned warfare on a planet where only the strongest survived. We did not develop honor codes or rules of engagement because our enemies never gave us that luxury. We learned to fight dirty, to use every advantage, and to never stop until our enemies are completely defeated." Dr. Sullivan approached with a tablet showing the new galactic map. Where the Empire's red territory had once spread across the galaxy, human blue now covered the same space. Other species, freed from imperial control, were rapidly establishing their own independent governments under human protection. "The Galactic Empire is officially dissolved," Morrison announced. "In its place, we establish the human hegemony. Any species that wishes to join as equal partners will be welcomed. Any species that attempts to recreate the Empire's tyranny will be eliminated without hesitation." General Carson activated a holographic display showing human fleets patrolling throughout what had been Imperial space. "Our forces will maintain order during the transition period. Any attempt to exploit the chaos or threaten peaceful species will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." Vexathara looked up at the human admiral with something that might have been understanding. "You did not just defeat us. You replaced us entirely. You consumed our civilization and made it your own." "Exactly," Morrison replied without emotion. "The Empire made the fatal mistake of threatening human expansion. We responded by consuming your entire civilization, your ancient power, your vast fleets, your centuries of tradition. All of it now serves human interests or has been destroyed." Human technicians were already installing new equipment throughout the palace, converting the ancient seat of galactic power into a human administrative center. The transition was smooth and efficient, like everything else humans did. Lieutenant Colonel Rodriguez gestured toward the massive windows that looked out over the capital city. "The transition is proceeding smoothly on all former Imperial worlds. Most species are celebrating the Empire's destruction rather than mourning it. This was something the Empire had never understood. Their rule had been based on fear and oppression, not loyalty. When that fear was removed, their subject races felt only relief." Morrison walked to the throne that had once held the most powerful being in the galaxy. But instead of sitting in it, he ordered his technicians to remove it completely. There will be no more emperors, Morrison declared. No more species ruling over others through fear and ancient power. The galaxy will be governed by those strong enough to protect it and wise enough to allow freedom. Captain Bennett provided the final military report. Admiral, all remaining Imperial forces have surrendered or been destroyed. The last Imperial. Strongholds fell yesterday. The war is completely over. Dr. Sullivan activated her holographic projector, showing the new industrial capacity that humanity now controlled. Admiral, with the Empire's manufacturing facilities under our control, human expansion can now proceed at an unprecedented rate. We can build 1,000 ships for everyone we built before. Morrison nodded with satisfaction. The war had not just eliminated a threat to humanity, it had positioned humans as the galaxy's dominant power with the resources to maintain that position indefinitely. Send a message to Earth, Morrison ordered. Inform the President that the threat to human expansion has been permanently eliminated. The galaxy is now open for unlimited human settlement and development. As the former Imperial leadership was led away to face justice for their crimes, Morrison stood alone in the throne room that now symbolized human dominance. The species that had dared to limit humanity's growth had been utterly consumed, their empire transformed into the foundation of human galactic supremacy. "What are your orders regarding the former Imperial territories?" Bennett asked. Morrison looked out at the city where millions of alien beings were already adapting to human rule. "We govern them fairly but firmly. Any species that accepts human authority and contributes to galactic stability will be protected and allowed to prosper. Any that threaten peace or try to recreate the Empire's oppression will be dealt with permanently." The final phase of Operation Prometheus was complete. Humanity had not just won a war, they had fundamentally changed the nature of galactic civilization. The old order, based on ancient power and traditional authority, was gone forever. In its place stood something new. A galactic community led by a species that had learned the hardest lessons about survival and was willing to enforce peace through overwhelming strength. The Empire's final mistake had been believing that humanity would behave like every other race they had dominated. Instead, they had discovered that some species cannot be conquered, only consumed by others even more dangerous than themselves. Admiral Morrison activated the communication system one final time. "To all species throughout the galaxy, this is Admiral Morrison of the human hegemony. The Galactic Empire is no more. In its place, we offer a simple choice. Join us as equals in building a better galaxy, or be removed as a threat to galactic peace. We conquer. We consume. We do not negotiate with those who threaten human interests. This is your only warning.